Hello friends, hope you're all doing well. Couple of days before, people who had been to Puducherry Promenade Beach, that is the rock beach what we have in Puducherry, the Coromandel coast, people have witnessed an unusual phenomenon. What was that? Generally, the sea looks blue in color. Now, a part of sea has turned red. So this is the unusual phenomenon people had observed. This was observed in the Coromandel coast, that is Puducherry, near to Chennai. But some reports do say that this phenomenon was observed in Marina Beach, Chennai, but I haven't got any reliable source regarding it. People who are watching this video, if you have an idea that this phenomenon was reported in Chennai also, so please do mention it in the comment section. It will be useful for the viewers. But this was for sure observed in a Puducherry coast, adjoining the Puducherry coast, right? On hearing this unusual phenomenon, so I was also keen in observing this, so I went to Puducherry beach. I could see people witnessing this phenomenon, some with enthusiasm, some with surprise, some with a sense of shock. What is happening? Is there any change in ecosystem? What is happening? And on top of this, many were trying to give reasons for this phenomenon. One say that it is an increased dissolution of clay in seawater, some red color pigment that has got discharged either through sewage or through industrial waste, and third was some supernatural event. These were all a different opinion that people were trying to give as a reason for this unusual phenomenon. But friends, you know that there is a very interesting phenomenon behind this. A phenomenon called as red tide or algal bloom. And in this video, we're going to talk about the phenomenon red tide and algal bloom. What is it? How suddenly it happens? What is its effect on the marine ecosystem? That is the fishes and all the other aquatic organisms present. And finally, what is the impact on humans? This is all going to be the questions that are raised here, and this discussion is going to provide you answers for all the questions. So I do request you to watch completely, okay, before you get the answers for these questions. So let's get into the discussion. So before we discuss what actually a red tide is, we are supposed to understand three different terms. These are scientific terms, but let me try to simplify it as simple as possible, okay, so that you will be able to understand this phenomenon with much more clarity, right? So first concept is photosynthesis. Hope everyone would have known what photosynthesis is. This is going to be a basic part in everyone's education period. Photosynthesis is nothing but, I could give you a picture here. You have a plant, the plant looks green due to the presence of pigment called as chlorophyll, so it is going to absorb sunlight. So you have got two inputs here. One is the carbon dioxide, you could see here, you could see my pointer, and also water. So these two are going to be the inputs of photosynthesis, and in presence of sunlight, light energy, we are getting an output. One is a sugar, that is a glucose, and other one is oxygen. So this is nothing but photosynthesis in a nutshell. And you too can see an equation summarizing the same: carbon dioxide plus water giving glucose and oxygen. So whatever I have summarized here is represented here in a simple equation form, right? So hope you are clear with what photosynthesis is, and please mind that this oxygen released during photosynthesis is what is used by we people, okay, in the process of breathing. Okay, not only we people, the entire world relies on oxygen produced by plants in the process called as photosynthesis. So this is the message that you are supposed to note here. Okay, right. Next is you have another two term which is called as dissolved oxygen and BOD, that is biochemical oxygen demand, or you can also call it as a biological oxygen demand. In simple term, what is dissolved oxygen? Plants do photosynthesis in marine ecosystem, that is under sea. Actually, the major contributors of photosynthesis are actually the marine plants. Whatever photosynthesis happening, some oxygen released during the process is getting dissolved in water. You call that as a dissolved oxygen, which is normally in healthy water will have around 8 milligram per liter is going to be the DO value. Okay. The next term is biochemical oxygen demand. biochemical oxygen demand. What is this? So before explaining biochemical oxygen demand, I forgot to mention one point in DO. This DO, that is the dissolved oxygen, is used by the aquatic organism for its breathing or respiration. Okay, the dissolved oxygen. And whatever oxygen there is getting emitted in the atmosphere is used by us. Hope you get this point. And what is biochemical oxygen demand? You have a process called as decomposition. You say this tissue is decomposed, the leaf is decomposed. What is decomposed? A dead tissue is getting broken down to simpler particle is what is referred as decomposition. It's a very common term, decompose. Such a decomposition is also happening in water the sea, where the aquatic organisms once they die, they start getting decomposed, where you have a bacteria which are called as decomposers playing a role here. In this process of decomposition, what is required is nothing but oxygen, because decomposition is an aerobic process, meaning that it requires oxygen. So that oxygen is utilized from DO. More the decomposition, more is the oxygen utilization. Amount of oxygen required is what is called as biochemical oxygen demand. For example, in an aquatic system, more dead organic tissues are there. So more the decomposition, so more the oxygen requirement, so more is the BOD. Which means that if BOD is high, what does it suggest? It suggests more decomposition, which means that the water is highly polluted. So healthy water usually have higher DO, less BOD. Polluted water will have less DO, higher BOD. Hope you get this point. I have not confused you, right? So these three are the term. So make sure that you have understood with this term, okay, before getting into the actual thing. Let's get into what is red tide, what is algal bloom. Friends, what happens is in an aquatic system, generally the nutrient concentration are in optimal level due to some reason, like if there is a runoff from an agricultural land containing nutrients, because agricultural land is supposed to have a lot of fertilizers, nutrients in the form of fertilizers. If due to some reason, if all the nutrients are getting washed away to an aquatic system, so here it is going to be a sea, or if any sewage has got more nutrient, the point is due to any reason, if the nutrient content of the aquatic ecosystem is increased, what happens? There is going to be a rapid increase in algae. Algae blooms. Okay, due to the increased nutrient, there is a rapid increase in number of algae. So people say that generally 1 liter has got around 1 million algae in normal condition, but in bloom it is going to be around 50 to 100 million in 1 liter, right? So there is going to be increased number of algae. Along with, there is also an increase in, you could see, and another, we generally call it as a microalgae called as gonulax. These are all unicellular organisms, which means that they are all single-celled unicellular organism, gonulax. So due to the increase in fertilizer, the nutrient, this level is getting increased. Okay, this is what is called as an algal bloom. Now, this gonulax is going to produce some pigment, some toxin that is going to impart red color. So that's the reason why we call it as a red tide and algal bloom. The algae is going to be a bit pathogenic. There is some people even call this algal bloom as a harsh algal bloom. So there are different terms, but generally we in India you use only red tide and algal bloom. So this is what is called as algal bloom. Now, is this phenomenon reported earlier? Okay, so many coasts have seen this, but the notable thing is you have an gonulax called as Carenia brevis in Gulf of Mexico, okay, which is responsible for the Florida red tide, okay, and this is a gonulax. This is a gonulax, okay, in the Florida red tide. This produces a toxin called as brevitoxin, which is a neurotoxin. You could see many fishes consuming this toxin has got dead. You could see this picture, right? If somehow, okay, if this fish is consumed by human, there is also going to be a damage to the human, right? So this is what something related to red tide and algal bloom. Now you get this point why it is called as a red tide. Okay, it is all the pigment due to released due to gonulax, which normally get increased during algal bloom. Is this alone? No. The point is this algal bloom is going to lead to a further process called as eutrophication. You will see this eutrophication. Now what happens is you have got a plant. This is going to trap the sunlight. You could see that trap the sunlight. It releases oxygen, and the oxygen is used by all the aquatic organism present. This is a normal condition. Now what happens when there is going to be a sudden increase in nutrient? There is an increased accelerated growth of algae, okay, which floats on the surface of water. You call that as an algae bloom. Floats, and these are all floating organism, floating phytoplankton. So it forms a kind of mat on the surface of water. You get this point? It forms a mat. Now, what is the effect of this? The sunlight which normally penetrates the water to these aquatic plants is totally blocked due to the mat, algal mat or algal scum or algal bloom, whichever term you call it as. So you have to link the algal bloom with another further step called as eutrophication, right? Now this is going to form a mat. So sunlight getting into the aquatic plants is totally blocked. Thereby the photosynthesis is greatly reduced. So the oxygen that is released by the aquatic system is totally stopped or greatly reduced. Thereby these organisms, the normal aquatic organisms cannot survive. Their numbers decline. You get this point? Second important thing is the algae, the accelerated algae, so-called algal bloom. Okay, what happens is some algae do decompose. Whatever the little amount of oxygen that is present is used for the decomposition process. Thereby, more algae due to algal bloom, more is the decomposition. So BOD is going to go high and DO is going to go down, which is an indicator of polluted water. So to summarize, the problem can be due to the toxin released by the algal bloom, organisms involved in algal bloom. The problem doesn't stop there. Further, the aquatic organism, they are also getting disturbed due to increased BOD and decreased dissolved oxygen, right? So totally the entire aquatic ecosystem is getting disturbed. And when we consume those organisms unknowingly, humans are also getting disturbed. Hope you get this point. So this is what is called as an algal bloom leading to eutrophication. Okay, right. Now, what further? So this sort of red tide is what is seen in the Puducherry beach. We have got a few questions. We know that the reason is algal bloom, but what is the exact reason? What reason? Why there was an increase in nutrient? Some people from National Coastal Research Center from Chennai, they have given some a geographical reason that there was some northern current moving towards south that has resulted in increased nutrient from sewage or something. But the further research has to go on before we conclude anything. And what is the organism involved? We have seen this instead of Florida red tide, the Carenia brevis was the organism involved. So what is the exact organism involved? Is that going to produce any toxin? Is that toxin has affected the ecosystem? So when that that impact is going to further impact the human. So these are all the questions that has to be answered. So further research already it has begun. The further research has to commence. So before we get a final conclusion, right? This is the reason behind this, the unusual phenomenon that people are witnessing in the Puducherry coastal region. Hope I have conveyed things in a very simplified way, though this involves some technical terms. So in case if you have any queries, if you have any doubts, do not hesitate to express in the comment section. So in case if you have any additional points to be conveyed, you are welcome to express in the comment section. So thanks for joining with us. We will meet in future with another interesting video. Thank you so much.